Hello, Roll Mithril here once again, getting back to Magmanimal 2, and it's time to check out the judge commentary for the last two stages. So first up we have 61st place, Shoeslime64's Taco Man. Snowrun Pyro. Oh my god, the music, it's awful, make it stop. Besides the horrendous music, the level design exists. There's like 8 screens total. Most of the difficulty really just comes from really annoying jumps with the Shadow Man platforms rather than legitimate challenges, though I do kinda like the room with a cannon and 2 potons. But other than that, it just exists. It's over incredibly quickly and doesn't do much. The boss fight also leaves much to be desired. The jumping and Mega Taco attacks are fine, but the lobbing taco attack comes out far too fast to react to properly. There really isn't much else to say about the level. It has like 8 screens, it sure exists, it's bleh. Joopy Hornet. I'm sorry, but that music is just terrible. I almost had to mute this level. Anyway, the level itself posed a decent challenge, but it was a bit too short. Taco Man himself was kind of unfair, because his primary attack, throwing a giant taco at you, was way too fast and gave the player next to no time to react since it wasn't telegraphed well. Angel. This stage completely omits the concept of teaching its mechanics to the player. As a result, it's pretty fun and rewarding if you know the stage and know what you're doing, but it's pretty inaccessible to players who don't. A more streamlined design would have helped the level in building up a difficulty curve and would have prevented it from doing unpredictable things such as the drop into spikes. Our ugly taco boy isn't the most exciting boss to fight, but he's a fair one and pretty delicious. Gariri. There's nothing remotely likable about this level. The level design is horrible. Obstacles and enemies are seemingly placed randomly and often make certain parts of the level unfair. Also, the music is absolutely awful, and the boss's sprites look disgusting. Other than that, the level just feels generic and uninteresting. And Aespark. That was short. There's some decent platforming challenges here, 1 or 2 rather clever mixes of enemies and gimmicks. It's not bad overall, but there doesn't seem to be much to say. One bit that sticks to mind with this stage was the room with the Sparkman platforms and that blue platform which looks like you should be able to jump through it. Bit weird. This has issues with its aesthetics, or lack thereof. There is no theming in the level, the tile sets don't quite match each other, and the music. Oof, my poor ears. I actually turned the music off whilst playing this stage. This is a little too short for its own good, I think, but it's certainly one of the better average levels. I was very surprised by having an actual Robot Master. He may be ugly, but I think he's a decent boss. So, one thing everybody seemed to agree with was the music was bad, which, to be fair, I've definitely heard worse. And I'm still legitimately curious where that song came from, or if it was just an original composition. But yeah, it was kinda interesting seeing the mixed reactions to Taco Man himself. Some that were more troubled with the giant taco attack, others that had more problems with the lobbing attack. I definitely side more on having problems with the lobbing attack, but still, overall, an okay stage. So moving on. 60th, Adrian0901, Candy Panic. Snowrun Pyro. That is an incredibly confusing tile set. It's really unclear what's solid and what isn't. Besides that, it feels like you focused way more on aesthetics than gameplay. The level design is just weird in there. There's no real difficulty curve, it's just stuff. The Guts Lift rides are extremely easy, and the one on the cave path, you can just stand there and the tellies will never hit you. There's empty stretches of land where the only enemy in your way is a Komosuboro, then suddenly a Metal Man fight at the end, except there's no conveyor belt, so any semblance of difficulty just evaporates into thin air. The level is just really bizarrely designed, and you'll probably only get hit ever by random surprise enemies like the Crazy Cannon at the start. It's a bleh level overall. Joopy Hornet. First of all, why is there a 1-up at the beginning of the level? You know those refill your health, so it has no use, right? This is something I've actually been curious about, was that made clear to the people who made the stages? Because, like, in an ordinary sort of setting, it would be nice to have that 1-up right there at the start, so I have to wonder if they knew that that was just a health refill in the context of this compilation of entries. Anyway, this was a really fun level. It felt very casual, a nice stroll through a land of candy. I liked how you made a split path, but I don't think there was enough difference in the gameplay between the two. One was vertical and one was horizontal, but both sections were basically riding Guts Lifts over pits/spikes. Maybe keep the Guts Lifts in the vertical section, and use another gimmick like the falling rocks in the cave section. Also, the graphics in the beginning didn't really look good, and it was hard to tell what you could walk through and what you had to slide through. Still, the design was good and it played well as a Mega Man level. Angel. This level seems to take a lot of its inspiration from Mega Man 1, however, at the same time, it seems to only look at that inspiration at a surface level. It takes its assets and proposes a similar structure without looking deeper and figuring out what kind of a design was used to make these classic levels fun to play. As a result, this level throws around enemies without much thought, has a split path where one side is much shorter, and resorts to text in order to explain some of its mechanics, which is something you never want to have to do as a designer. Toxic Chocolate wouldn't even harm Mega Man because he's Steel-type too, so what even? Jokes aside, I found this level to be rather irritating. I questioned its decisions on almost every screen, where the sections in which I didn't do so felt like they were ripped straight out of a classic title. Gariri. I'm not really sure what to say about this level. I liked how it looked, but that's about it. It's honestly pretty boring. The level design is nothing special. I genuinely don't have a lot to say about this one. It's just a standard generic level. And A-Spark. I guess this level was trying to ape the tropes of Mega Man 1. That is a rather bad game to emulate for a level design contest, especially since that game's tropes were pretty lackluster compared to the rest of the series. This level was dull, with the only interesting segment being the vertical climb on the Gutsman lifts, and the enemies chosen there were appropriate in placement and challenge. The rest of this level does nothing. It's almost entirely enemies, and enemies by themselves are boring. The caverns were especially dull. You didn't even use one of the primary features of the Gutsman lift. Another rather major issue is the tile set. It's not bad to look at, but it actively hinders the level. The tile set seems to actively confuse the player. I'm not sure how the cake frosting is supposed to look like something you can slide through, because it does not look that way at all. Additionally, spikes in this level do not look like spikes. They blend in with the background, and even after I had realized they were spikes, they are so similar to the rest of the surroundings, your mind just sort of forgets what they look like. There were spikes? Instant death hazards really need to stand out. The poison chocolate gimmick is just stupid. If it acts like spikes, make them spikes, because there is no visual difference between the poison chocolate and regular chocolate. Having a sign to tell the player that this thing will suddenly kill them is really poor game design. I was also very disappointed by your signature Robot Master not turning up. After having him taunt the player throughout the stage, you've pretty much wasted any goodwill the player would have had with your level concept, and used a dev kit boss instead. A dev kit boss who doesn't even make sense in your stage. Ending the level how you did might just be worse than not having a proper climax at all, actually. So, yeah, this stage, they pretty much hit the nail on the head as far as my main problem is the tile set. It was really hard to tell what you were supposed to do, especially with a cake frosting. The fact that you could slide under it really was not clear at all. Other than that, the stage, it was okay. It did the same thing as the Super Mario Bros. 3 stage, where it had a split path with no real reward for doing both paths, and the cavern path just felt kinda there. It is like they said, you can just ride that Guts Lift platform over the quote-unquote poison chocolate, which I guess is spikes apparently, and the tellies will never hinder you at all. So, that is kind of odd. But anyway, that's where we're going to call it for now. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you're enjoying the series so far, and I shall see you again next time. Until then, fare thee well.